There's something in From that has been hiding in plain sight since season 1, and now it's finally starting to reveal itself. Not as a clue, not as a side mystery, but as the core of everything. The reason the town exists, the reason people suffer, and possibly the reason no one truly escapes. It's called the Lake of Tears, and if you think this is just another location the characters need to find, you're already thinking too small. Because what Season 4 Episode 2 just did wasn't reintroduce a mystery. It reframed the entire story. Quietly but very deliberately, the show is telling us that this lake might not just be part of the puzzle, it might be the machine running it. Before we go deeper, here's the quick recap of what this all connects to. The episode brings back the Lake of Tears through Ethan's childhood visions, Julie's dangerous attempt to step into the past using story walking, and most importantly, Jim's appearance after death, where he gives a direct instruction. Find the Lake of Tears. At the same time, the episode surrounds this reveal with intense emotional trauma. Jim's body, the kid's breakdown, the family falling apart. That combination is not accidental, it's a pattern. Now here's where things start getting uncomfortable. The Lake of Tears was never random. From the very beginning, it's been embedded into the story through Ethan. Back in Season 1, after the crash, he wakes up talking about it, mentioning drawings on the wall. Those drawings made by Victor have always carried a strange kind of truth. They don't explain anything directly, but they show just enough to suggest that someone, long before our current characters, has already seen what's coming. So when Ethan mentions the lake back then, it wasn't a throwaway line, it was set up, and now the show is cashing in on it. But it doesn't stop there. The Flight of the Cromenockle book, which once felt like a harmless piece of fantasy, is now looking more like a coded guide. In that story, fairies rise from the Lake of Tears to help the hero. Sounds innocent, but nothing in From is ever innocent. Help in this town always comes with consequences, sometimes brutal ones. And Julie's experience proves that. When she attempts to walk into the past using the story as a framework, something terrifying happens. She doesn't just observe history, she interacts with it. She gets attacked, she comes back injured. That alone breaks the rules we thought this world followed. It tells us that whatever this lake represents, it doesn't exist in normal space or time. It's connected to something deeper, something that allows movement between moments, not just places. And if that's true, then the lake isn't just a destination, it's a gateway. But then comes the moment that changes everything. Jim. When Ethan sees Jim at the RV, the show makes it very clear this isn't just grief playing tricks. The tone is different, the message is focused. Jim isn't confused, he isn't emotional, he's purposeful. He hugs Ethan, tells him to take care of the family, and then gives him a mission. Find the Lake of Tears. And just like that, the mystery becomes a directive. But here's the part you shouldn't ignore. Jim doesn't explain why. He disappears before he can. And in a show like From, that's not a coincidence. That's a warning. Because every time someone gets close to understanding something in this town, the truth doesn't come fully. It comes in fragments, in pieces, just enough to pull them deeper. So now we have to ask the real question. What exactly is the Lake of Tears? Let's start with the most grounded possibility. The one the show wants you to believe first, that it's a real physical place. There are clues supporting this. Victor's drawings show bodies of water. The environment around the town hint at something larger beyond what we've seen. There have been mentions of a massive presence near a lake. Even the sound design, dripping water in caves, damp environments, keeps reinforcing the idea that water is important here. If that's true, then the lake becomes the next destination, the next expedition, the next big risk. But here's where the pattern kicks in. Every time the characters move towards something that looks like hope, the cost increases. And right as the lake is brought back into focus, what happens? Jim is found, dead, brutally. The children are exposed to it. The emotional damage spreads instantly. The family begins to fracture. That timing is too precise, which leads us to the darker, more dangerous interpretation. The Lake of Tears is not just a place, it's a system. Think about how this town operates. It doesn't just kill people, it breaks them. It isolates them, manipulates them, forces them into emotional extremes. Fear, grief, desperation. over and over. Now imagine that all of that isn't random. Imagine it's being collected, stored, used. The phrase, knowledge comes at a cost, isn't just thematic, it's literal. Every time someone learns something new, something is taken from them. And right when the lake is reintroduced, the emotional intensity spikes. That suggests a connection. What if the Lake of Tears is exactly what it sounds like? A reservoir of suffering, a place or mechanism that feeds on human emotion. Suddenly, everything starts aligning. The cycles, the repeated patterns, the way the town escalates trauma just when answers begin to surface. It's not chaos, it's design. And if the lake is the core of that design, then finding it isn't about escape. It's about confronting the engine that keeps everything running. But just when you think you've got it figured out, the show throws something even stranger into the mix. What if the Lake of Tears isn't even on the ground? There's a growing theory that flips Victor's drawings, literally, and changes their meaning entirely. What looks like water starts to resemble a sky filled with stars. The spider figure descending from above no longer looks like a creature rising from a lake, but something coming down from the sky. And that opens a completely different possibility, that the Lake of Tears isn't a location, but an event. Something tied to the sky, to celestial patterns, to whatever force brought these people into the town in the first place. It sounds far-fetched, but think about it. People don't enter this town normally. They arrive suddenly, unexplainably, almost like they've crossed into something rather than traveled to it. If the lake is connected to that crossing, if it's some kind of opening, then it wouldn't be something you walk to, it would be something you wait for, or trigger. But here's the problem. Every version of this theory leads to the same place. Danger. Because whether the lake is a physical location, an emotional power source, or a cosmic event, one thing stays consistent. It comes with a cost. And that brings us to the most disturbing possibility of all, that the Lake of Tears is connected to death itself. Jim appears after dying and knows about it. The show keeps emphasizing the idea that parts of people remain even after they're gone, through objects, through memories, through visions. These aren't just emotional echoes, they feel intentional. Directed. What if the lake is where those fragments come from? A place where something of the dead still exists, or worse, a place where they're reused. If that's true, then the town isn't just trapping people, it's recycling them, turning their existence into part of the system. And suddenly, escape doesn't look like freedom anymore. It looks like another layer of the trap. Because if the lake is the source, then going to it might not break the cycle, it might complete it. Now step back and look at what the show is doing. It introduces the lake. It ties it to Ethan, the one character who has always been connected to the deeper mystery. It surrounds that revelation with emotional devastation, and then it gives a direct instruction. Find it. That's not just storytelling, that's escalation. Because this isn't a quest built on hope. It's a path built on consequences. And if there's one thing From has made clear, it's that nothing in this town is ever given freely. So when Jim tells Ethan to find the Lake of Tears, you have to ask yourself, is he helping him or is he sending him exactly where the town wants him to go? Because in a place like this, the most dangerous thing isn't the monsters. It's the illusion you're getting closer to the truth. And if the Lake of Tears really is what it's starting to look like, then the moment they find it might be the moment everything finally falls apart.